Ouellet is accused by a woman who says that he assaulted her multiple times while she worked as a pastoral intern for the Quebec Archdiocese between 2008 and 2010, while he was Archbishop of Quebec. And basically, it involves allegations of him kissing her and touching her inappropriately in public, apparently. So, the Vatican Response was issued earlier this week, I guess just yesterday, by the Holy See Press Office, released a statement saying, quote, regarding the allegations of recent days reported in the press concerning Cardinal Marc Ouellet, the director of the Holy See Press Office, Matteo Bruni, states that, quote, having completed the preliminary investigation entrusted by the Pope to Father Jacques Servois, the conclusion, and I think this priest is a Jesuit, the conclusion of which was that there are no elements to initiate a trial against Cardinal Ouellet for sexual assault. Neither in Servois' written report sent to the Holy Father, nor in the testimony via Zoom material for. So, did the Holy See receive sufficient material for an investigation? So the statement ends by saying Pope Francis declares that there are insufficient elements to open a canonical investigation for sexual assault. So we certainly hope that that's true, but unfortunately, with Francis and his track record of defending and protecting known abusers, we don't have all that much confidence in that statement, sadly. Some other.
Well, no, it's really clear. I mean, sort of again, his history as documented by Archbishop Vigano, among others, for protecting abusers, and then two, he clearly has the propensity for, if you're on his team, if you are with the Peronist regime, you can do anything and nothing will happen to you, a la Cardinal McCarrick. But if you criticize or question him in any way, any whiff of any, even nothing wrong, and you are instantly punished without canonical process, without investigation, a la Cardinal Burke, for example. You're just, summarily executed in a figurative sense, is the way he operates. So it does lead one to sort of question. I mean, it's all, you should always give people the benefit of the doubt. Well, but when there's no benefit of the doubt, when it's someone whose behavior is constantly punish my enemies, cover up my friends, you do have a reason to doubt, right? There is a legitimate doubt, and they're not entitled to the benefit of it. And it's just
Cardinal Marc Ouellet has proven himself to be a very loyal subordinate to Pope Francis in multiple ways. Just to give a few examples, so in October of 2018, less than a month after Archbishop Vigano issued his initial testimony, Cardinal Ouellet issued his own statement in response, basically saying that Vigano was, just causing a bunch of trouble, that it was a totally unnecessary and gratuitous attack on Pope Francis, and that there's no base. And he was claiming essentially that under Pope Benedict, that one of the central claims of Archbishop Vigano in his initial testimony is that there were sanctions in place against Cardinal McCarrick by Benedict XVI, that he was not to appear in public, that he was not to be traveling around and stuff, that he was basically supposed to live a life of prayer and penance anonymously. Cardinal Ouellet contradicted Archbishop Vigano's testimony, claiming that there were never any sanctions, kind of playing word games, that there were restrictions, but they were never formal sanctions, something to that effect. And this actually broke while I was in Rome to cover the Youth Synod. This was in early October 2018. So I summarized in an article at the time that Cardinal Ouellet's open letter to Archbishop Vigano, here we go. Ouellet referred to Vigano's accusations as an quote, unjust and unjustified attack against Pope Francis, quote, a scandalous rebellion that inflicts a very painful wound to the bride of Christ. So he's lashing out at the whistleblower rather than holding the real culprit accountable, which is Francis himself.
Yes. So, I mean, well, it was clearly the hitman sent to attack Archbishop Vigano. And again, just think about it. If what Archbishop Vigano did really violated canon law in terms of the secret, really was defamatory and untrue, why did they never investigate, try, bring charges against Archbishop Vigano to
Right.
this day? Nothing.
Right.
So if what he said was completely false and was wrong and he shouldn't have done it,
Right.
where's, put your proof where your mouth is? Nothing.
Exactly.
He just wrote this letter and that was it.
If Vigano is guilty of a canonical crime, why have there been no canonical sanctions against him? So then
Yes.
a month later, in November of 2018, when the U.S. bishops were meeting for the first time since the story broke about
Yes.
McCarrick's abuses, and they were actually planning to discuss this and vote on some measures related to it,
Mm.
Cardinal Ouellet sends a letter to the then USCCB president, Cardinal Daniel DiNardo of Galveston, Houston, and says, no, you're not allowed to vote on those things because we need to reflect on this more maturely, something
Yes.
to that
Yes.
effect. So he put the kibosh on the USCCB doing anything related to McCarrick until
And
they got
abuse.
their marching orders from Rome on that. Also, I have this book by Edward Penton it's called The Next Pope, and it's kind of gives profiles of cardinals who are considered papabili or possible papal candidates in the next conclave, among which is Cardinal Ouellet. And I had forgotten that. So in 2019, at the scandalous Amazonian Synod, when all of the Pachamama idols were in the Church of Santa Maria in Transpontina, that is actually the titular church of Cardinal Marc Ouellet. So he was allowing that to go on, those idols to be
Yes.
present in his church.
Yes.
And it was from that church, as I recall, that Alexander Teshugul took them out and threw them into the Tiber. Thanks.
Correct.
God bless him for
Yes.
doing that. But then also, a third way that Cardinal Ouellet has proven himself a very loyal subject of Francis and promoting the errors of Francis is in regard to Amoris Laetitia.
Yes.
So, which was published, as you recall, in April of 2016. So prior to that document, Cardinal Ouellet had been publicly outspoken against giving Holy Communion to
Yes.
divorced and civilly remarried Catholics, in line with John Paul II, Benedict XVI. But then, after Amoris Laetitia, in true hyper-papalist fashion, to whatever the Pope says is Catholicism, essentially, regardless of if it's in
Yep.
line with Scripture and tradition, he started defending Amoris Laetitia, and Edward Penton describes that in detail in his book. He says, according to Ouellet, Amoris Laetitia accords with previous church teaching. Amoris Laetitia complements Veritatis Splendor, the encyclical of John Paul II, against moral relativism, against situation ethics, etc. And Cardinal Ouellet claims, by, quote, noting the way this conscience can be clouded by factors that influence one's knowledge of moral norms and one's will to follow them, thus, according to church doctrine, affecting the subjective immutability of wrong acts. Similarly, Penton goes on, Ouellet reads Amoris Laetitia not to contradict, but rather to, quote, extend the openings initiated by His Holiness John Paul II's apostolic exhortation, Familiaris Consortio. And that's just blatantly dishonest.
That's a lie. Yeah.
Familiaris Consortio says, quote, number 84, the Church reaffirms her practice, which is based upon sacred scripture, of not admitting to Eucharistic communion divorced persons who have remarried. They are unable to be admitted thereto from the fact that their state and condition of life objectively contradict that union of love between Christ and the Church, which is signified and effected by the Eucharist. Besides this, John Paul II wrote, there is another special pastoral reason. If these people were admitted to the Eucharist, the faithful would be led into error and confusion regarding the Church's teaching about the indissolubility of marriage. Amoris Laetitia directly contradicts all of what I just read.
Yeah,
So it's
that was not an
blatantly
opening.
dishonest.
No
No,
opening.
no,
Well,
not
and
at all.
then most recently, you remember our story from last week about the smudging
Yes.
ritual, pagan ceremony that went on. Guess who, lo and behold, was there?
With
There
his
he
hand
is.
over his heart, following the shaman's directions.
Yes.
Yep.
So he will do anything, break any commandment if the fearless leader tells him to, unfortunately.